Welcome to AGHOST Stories. I'm Gabby.
I'm Kim. We are part of AGHOST, the Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle, Tacoma.
And we're here to share tales of ours and others' firsthand paranormal experiences that bring us back again and again to share our evidence. Today we have something pretty interesting to talk about. Kim, what are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Port Gamble and the Walker Ames house.
Ooh, and we have a guest with us today, don't we?
We do. Very special guest. Extra special.
Tell me about who we have, Kim. Who do we have?
We have Jake with us again. Hi, Jake.
Hi, guys.
Oh, it's going to be a good day today.
How's my lovely ladies of morbidity this
morning? No.
Still need a t-shirt that says that.
I know. I feel like we should all wear the shirt and be on Skype.
And I'm totally going to get one for myself, too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The ladies of morbidity's queen.
Lovely ladies of morbidity.
You're more so like the daddy of morbidity.
Oh, yeah.
No,
was it Ghost Daddy?
Ghost Daddy.
Yeah, Ghost Daddy. I was thrown down on the mic.
Oh, man.
Waxing a chump like a candle.
Oh, my God. So anyway, clearly this is going to be a great episode again because we do have the Ghost Daddy 101 with
But today is all about the evidence.
Yes. But actually, for those of you who don't know, we're all in the same group together. We're in AGHOST together, and Jake and Kim both have some really good evidence to share with us today. So Kim, please take it away.
Well, to give you a little history of Port Gamble, Washington specifically, which is where the Walker Ames house is. Port Gamble is a historic district. It's in Kitsap County, Washington. So it's a little bit outside of Seattle. It was originally named Tecumseh, like a lot of the different parts of Washington. It had a name given to us by the local tribes. It was renamed Port Gamble for the bay that gives us access to the ocean. And it was kind of a big deal because Port Gamble was a lumber town, much like Seattle was back when we first started.
Skid Road.
Yeah, I don't think they had a skid road. Not like we did.
Well, they kind of had a skid sandbar.
They had a skid sandbar. The town was founded, it's a lot smaller than Seattle.
There's like 1,000 people there tops, maybe.
Not even 1,000. It's the permanent population currently. Wait, I actually found this because it was so bonkers. Currently, the current population is something more like, I don't know, it's like 100 or something. It's ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
Really?
So it's nobody.
Well, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny town. Now, it was not always a tiny, tiny, tiny town. You had William Talbot and Andrew Pope, who came from San Francisco, and they wanted to build the shipping and lumber business. And so what they quickly found is they were importing all of this wood, and the wood, it wasn't enough. They couldn't keep up with the demands. Now, anyone who has even been to Washington once knows if there's one thing we do have around here, it'd be trees.
Wood.
We got wood. Yeah,
we got wood.
Especially in Capitol Hill.
We got real
wood.
Uh-oh. And I would say if there's less than 100 people in a town, would one call it a ghost town?
No.
Oh, okay, fine. I tried.
I would say Spectral Village, but we'll get there.
I need to find that exact number. I had it somewhere, but I have too many pages of notes, and I get that's the sound I make when I have too many pages of notes. So they started building up the lumber industry there and creating their own mill. And so they joined forces with a couple of their partners, and they formed the Puget Mill Company. Ooh. It's not really, I know, right? Puget Mill Company. It's not really spooky, but yeah. I want it to be spookier than it is.
Yeah, we can make it spooky.
Ooh, it's all in delivery. Puget Mill Company. Although that gets kind of into ASMR. That's a whole other like weird, creepy thing. I'm gonna tap my fingernails on the microphone. So in the summer of 1853, Talbot, after looking all around, found the mouth of Gamble Bay, which is kind of a ominous sounding thing to say.
The mouth.
The
It
mouth
does.
of Gamble Bay.
Can we say maw? Because maw sounds even
the
creepier.
maw of I like that. Sounds like a really messed up children's story.
That sounds
The
like a scary
maw
mom,
of
like
Gamble Bay.
Kathy Bates is waiting with an axe, bringing us back to the maw.
The maw of Gamble
maw
Bay.
Or Gamble Bay. And you know they've got Kraken in there too. Just saying.
Never turn down a good Kraken. It can be our motto. Just never turn down.
Hashtag never turn down a good Kraken.
Or I'll have my Kraken with lemon.
Dash goes daddy.
I'll have my Kraken like he's having.
Dear Lord.
We're so serious all the time. It's astounding.
Can't take us anywhere.
That is actually true. You can't take us anywhere. Puget Mill Company. That's what we were talking about, weren't we? The Puget. I just want to say that over and over. Thank you for those delightful sound effects. So where are we? 1853. 1853. The Maw of Gamble Bay. And it was a great spot for shipping to come in to be able to ship loads out. So Port Gamble was established as a company town. It was built to house the people working for this lumber company. It was America's longest running company town and mill company until it closed in 1995.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is a long time, right?
Yeah.
And it is still entirely owned by spin-off company Pope Resources, and it's now become a tourist town. Not quite the same way that I think of tourist towns locally. I think of Leavenworth with its little like cute Bavarian theme where it was like, oh crap, we can't continue our industry. We need to come up with something to make people still come here or we're going to die. Ghosts, exactly.
Ghosts.
I'm all about a ghost tourist town. Like but I think everybody there has to be a ghost, and that does make some problems. Anyway, a lot of the buildings they are maintained historical sites. Now, not all of them. A lot of the town had been torn down. But most of the town is still owned by the mill. There's an old church that's been restored. And it was the mid-1960s where they were really trying to start preserving these really cool old towns or these old buildings, which were all built mostly in the 1850s to early 1900s. There's almost every building in Port Gamble is haunted. Period.
Oh,
full stop.
so cool.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it is a ghost town in that sense.
Well, so we should say most of the stuff on the main strip, which I forget the name of the main strip, that road, it's really pretty.
I mean,
with
it pretty
the
much
trees
is
and everything
the town
in the water.
at this point.
That's true. It's true. But there are some civilian areas, around.
But the main strip, all of the general store, which is where the Port Gamble Historic Museum is also housed. And there's reports of the lights flickering in the museum, curtains blowing around. Yeah.
And June got evidence there. Because remember, this episode is all about the evidence.
So let's explain who June is. June is actually the vice president, right? And so she is the queen organizer of all the things, and also a paranormal investigator with us. I personally have not been to Port Gamble, so I'm just here for the stories because this sounds awesome. But I know that my other two lovely mistresses of are people that have actually been into the town and have done investigations. And June has also been in investigations with them. And was Ross in the investigation process as well?
Oh, yeah. Well, so a ghost does investigations there. I mean, really, at this point, yearly. We do at least one, if not multiple.
Awesome.
We have a fairly good relationship with the guy who basically takes care of the house now, Pete. Yeah, who is lovely and awesome.
What house are you talking about, Kim?
The Walker Ames house, but we're jumping ahead because I still have other stuff to get to.
Please. Thank you.
Back her up.
You're just like our Foley artist over here. I like it.
Totally.
The Buena Vista Cemetery, which I've been to multiple times. Jake, have you been there? It's very cool.
There as well, yes.
It has a couple different spirits that are said to be up there. A shadow-like child figure running along the cemetery's fence, and activity near a hill near the entrance. And it is said that the Native Americans had used the hill for rituals before Europeans came in and settled there. And that's one of the reasons why they think some of the energy there is what it is.
Yeah, so what I heard about with the Native Americans, and let's give a shout out to the tribes. We have this. We had two tribes. Is it the Salish, Duwamish?
They are somewhat related.
There were like two tribes that crossed through the area.
It's
but I can't remember what was
the Suquamish was one of them.
Yeah. Okay. So I couldn't remember the Salish, Suquamish, or Duwamish, but those tribes were.
But so the cemetery itself, again, quite haunted. It also overlooks the mill site, and this was one of those stories, because it's all about the evidence. Take a shot. Is that going to be our shit geysers of the episode?
For this episode of AGHOST Stories, your drinking game is going to be the word evidence. Evidence.
We've just killed like 5 people by saying evidence over and I said it again.
Oh my god! If you see Jake's face while he's saying it, it's like demonic. It's great.
Thank you. I try.
Secretly a demon. So I found this one story about someone being decapitated.
Ooh!
In the mill. I know.
What?
Like voluntarily or like exactly how?
Hey man, can you get me some coffee and while you're at chop my head off? Bang.
rough Monday.
They got a little too invested in playing our drinking game and had a little too much and thought it was a great idea to be decapitated. No, I could not find anything more than multiple references to it. Investigators talking about decapitated spirits and someone lost their head while working there. But I couldn't find specifics. I couldn't find a name. I couldn't even find a time frame when this happened, if this was the early days of the mill or later. And so if we are, I hate to be that guy, but I am a little suspicious anytime I can't find anything to back up a story.
Evidence.
Okay, so let's just put this in perspective, because when we're talking about apparitions, so for the casual ghost hunter out there, not everything's a full bodied apparition.
I mean, especially if you're decapitated.
Type thing. It's not exactly. And so it is common to see like someone pass by and you get like shoulders to knees, or shoulders to waist. So, and sometimes you see an arm. Sometimes the arm doesn't have a hand. It's just you don't know how it manifests. So, so I'm just thinking, if they saw an apparition walking by, it may not have a head simply because the apparition just didn't manifest with one. Not that the human
you
actually
could
lost.
Argue. I mean, if we're gonna go down that road, I love going down these roads because this is like the thought process of the investigators, right? It's not the thought process of, to Kim's point, the everyday ghost hunter. It's more along the lines of how transparent was this apparition? Was it like you literally saw from the shoulders to the feet in opacity? Like, was it completely opaque, or could you see through everything? Because if you're seeing everything as like a fully opaque manifestation and then you don't see a head, I could see how someone would think that that's a decapitated apparition. But
Right.
to Jake's point, if it's more transparent and you see like bits and pieces, then it's not necessarily like a for sure decapitation moment.
Yeah. And it also depends on where the witness was standing when they saw it, because
That's true.
it might have just obscured the head.
Well, and that was where I was trying really hard to find where the original account of this started. Was it one account of someone being like, I saw a headless ghost, or were there multiple accounts of it? And it's something I have on my list to talk to Pete about next time I speak to him, to get a little more info straight from the source, because he is kind of the definitive, I feel like, Port Gamble expert.
Yeah. So, Kim, in your notes, do you have the safety record of the mill? Okay, because though people did die in the mill, I've been on the tour for the Walker Ames house before, given by Pete and stuff, and they had a pretty good safety record for the time. And it wasn't like a meat grinder of death.
That would be a really good band name.
That sounds super metal.
Meat grinder of death. Yeah, it does, really. Okay. I'll share with you guys. We'll do EDM as Lovely Ladies of Morbidity and the death metal as Meat Grinder of Death.
I also, because I got curious, I was looking up the total number of the population of Port Gamble. It is about 1,000. I'm not sure where I got my like weird number. Yeah.
It's a big area though.
I think what I've been reading about was just that like proper the little historic area that is just that couple handful of stores and a little tiny restaurant.
And I will say, because I bet the company town, so non sequitur and tangent, it's somewhat related, there's rumors that the town is going to allow people to buy the houses.
Interesting.
And if that's the case, Daddy's taking the life savings and get a little crib in Port Gamble.
And then we can go do all the ghost hunting there.
That's right. I'll call it Ghost Daddy's Shack.
Why is like the Love Shack?
What? Yeah, like the Love Shack, but with ghosts.
Ghost Daddy's
Ghost Shack. Yeah.
That just sounds a little bit. I'm not going to go there.
And we're going to have Malort and Absinthe and Aquavit and all these
and Chicago
for Christmas this year, I'm going to get you a sign for your home that says Daddy's Ghost Shack. And it is done.
And that will be our hashtag for this episode.
Daddy's Ghost Shack. I feel like that could be it. If you...
Well, we have to have... Was a grinder of death. What was it? Meat grinder.
But you have to spell grinder.
That was what
like
I was just thinking. What's our rating for this podcast?
Right now it's 5 stars, but I might go
like
down.
rated E for everyone.
Well,
or rated
actually.
E
Oh. Meanwhile, I'm like, Apple Podcast says 5 stars.
I will say we have not dropped.
I said shit.
Not yet.
And that's right.
It's fine.
Yeah,
we're definitely a PG-13 moment.
I feel like if I don't say shit geysers at least once an episode, we're all gonna die.
And then we'll haunt the podcast.
The curse of the shit geyser.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna talk about Puget Sound's plumbing back in the day was
and to be fair, that is the proper use of the word shit. I'm just saying that.
That's true. That's true. Anyway,
so
headless ghost.
We dropped off. We tangent.
So,
yes, headless ghost.
Jumping ahead to the Walker Ames house itself, built by Cyrus Walker, who was the mill superintendent from 1854 until 1888. He built the home smack dab in the center of town, with the front facing the bay. So it was like the best view in town. He was like, I'm a big important guy. This is where my house is going to go. It's going to be amazeballs. Look at this view.
I mean, I don't blame him. I would love to do the same thing.
However, I'm just going to give the reality check on that, because right down the little hill from the Walker Ames house is this smoke spewing mill
in the maw
of Gamble Bay.
But it was, and we'll put some pictures up on our Instagram. It's a gorgeous home. I mean, even today, being a little bit more run down from the outside, it is still quite impressive. Queen Anne style Victorian home.
Ooh, my favorite.
Now they think it could have been built from local lumber, but they also brought in all this stained glass, which they had to bring in from back east. When he retired from the mill, the home and the superintendent position went to his son-in-law, Edwin Ames. And that is how it got the name, the Walker Ames
Walker
House.
Ames. Oh, things make
All
sense.
becomes clear. Dun, dun, dun.
I can see clearly now. The Walker
Walker
Ames.
Ames.
Yeah, I'm not quitting my day job. Don't worry. Anywho, Walker Ames. Continue.
Walker Ames. So yeah, a ghost goes there yearly. No, but we have plans
We
to. It
haven't
looks
gone
like
yet this
for
year.
August or September, I think.
Yeah.
I want to go. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the nice things too, it is quite a large house. There's a lot of floors. Generally, when we investigate, we send teams to multiple floors. So we'll have someone in the basement, we'll have someone in the attic, we'll have someone where the yellow bedroom is, which will be.
Mhm. And there's plenty of
Yes.
experiments set up all around the
something
place.
that I found interesting the first time I was there is that there are small sections of the house that are set aside exclusively for the ghost residents. There are areas that the investigators are not allowed to go into. Yeah, this
I
was
didn't
something
know
Pete told
this.
me my very first year there. He was showing me around because I'd never been there before. And there's a hallway and there's another room, and they do keep recorders there.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah. I have.
So
seen-
he'll go in and out and
Yeah.
grab the recorders and change them out. But otherwise, those are the resident only areas. And it's a way of acknowledging that we are always guests in their home. The house itself is currently unoccupied. It has been unoccupied for a while.
Unoccupied by the living.
Although they were, I don't know if they were still doing that this year, but it used to be where they were setting up their Santa Lane. So because it was one of the things when you go into the kitchen and there's tinsel and weird around. Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah.
because-
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
They put
and
the
it's
porta
because
potties in there, yeah.
In December they'll set up Santa there, which
Okay.
is, I don't know, that's just really, really amusing to me for some reason. You've got this insanely haunted house, and it's where Santa lives. It seems appropriate.
That sounds so awesome and also incredibly
Right?
terrifying.
I don't know how that has. I mean, to be fair though, I would have been one of the kids that was like, "This is so cool."
Yeah,
I
that
know.
would have been us, but we're not normal. We're the
Yeah, true. And then, you could just think of it when they pull Santa out for the little Christmas parade type stuff and for lining it. And they're like, Mommy, how come Santa has a bloody axe? And we know why.
Just from a diction perspective, you said axe.
I did say axe.
Initially-
A-X.
I heard something else.
Axe. Did you hear axe? Did you hear axe? Did I have too much
Little bit,
sibilance
little
on
bit.
the axe?
Oh, guys.
My bad. A-X-E. In Morse code, that's da-da, da-da-da-da.
Oh my God, you're crazy.
Why ghost daddy?
I have so many talents.
Oh my God.
And you can experience those talents at Daddy's Ghost Shack.
Oh my God. Oh my God. We went there.
Right at the foot of the maw of Gamble Bay. Come join Daddy and his ghostly friends.
I've heard this
barbecue.
late at night before.
And shots.
What is the barbecue though? Is the barbecue human or
What else do you barbecue? Chicken?
It's going to be naughty little kids.
Maybe that's how Santa got the
got-
bloody ass.
That.
I got one or two naughty little kid I could throw up on the grill for you.
Okay.
Oh my God. Oh, we need the backpedal. Beep. Beep. Beep.
I was gonna say my favorite barbecue sauce though is Carolina mustard. So
are there air quotes around that? Is that really something else?
no, it's really Carolina mustard.
And at
The
some
barbecue
point,
sauce.
the podcast took a turn.
Lovely ladies of morbidity, we need a little morbidity.
You mean
I know.
more so than grilling
More
children
morbidity.
and having Santa eat them?
Santa's bloody axe. Daddies go shack.
Oh, the hashtag.
I
this
think we need
episode.
to retitle
Grinder.
this podcast. It needs to be more of like a comedy podcast to like a paranormal podcast because this shit is getting ridiculous. All right, Kim, take it away.
Anyway. So there's so many different spirits. But what's been really interesting to note is how many people, upon first entering the house, report feeling a physical change.
Like what? Kind
Like
of
in some cases, it's been feelings of dread. In some cases, it's been feeling like they were almost hit with energy. Yeah, the very first time I ever came inside, it was
That's what she said. Sorry.
okay. That time it was you. And at what point did it go off the rails?
It never was on the rails, y'all. It never. Was
We've been on off road for a while now. So yeah, the very first time that I went there, it was when I walked in the house, and I'm not somebody who considers myself particularly psychic or anything, and that was why it was so odd to just get hit with this energy.
So, question:
Yeah.
When you walked out of the house, were you like totally fine?
Yeah, I mean, and this is one of the fun quirks of the Walker Ames house is there is not a working bathroom.
Oh.
So
I feel like we're gonna have another shit geyser moment.
I mean, it's possible they've had problems with that with some of the crews, but you have to use the bathrooms that are over where the post office is in that kind of community building. And so there is a point where you're in and out of the house. If you're going to be doing an overnight, you do have to leave to use the bathroom.
That sucks.
But a ghost is advanced. We bring a porta potty.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have our ghost porta potty.
It's called a bucket.
We use the same one on the Turner
Gross.
Joy.
Gross.
I didn't even clean it.
Mhm.
Gross.
With a shit geyser.
So, if anyone's wondering where shit geysers actually came from, it came from personal experiences with a bucket. So anyway, you did have to leave multiple times
Right.
to use the restroom. So as you left, what happened?
Not a whole lot. I mean, you walk outside, you're like, oh, we're outside now. It was the summer, so it felt a little cooler. The big thing I noticed is that I've been in there this summer. That's usually when we do investigations, and it does get quite warm. Investigating up in the attic, which I have a couple stories about. A lot of weird stuff happened up in the attic. The very first EVP session I did up in the attic was myself and a few other investigators. And there is the spirit of a child that is said to haunt the attic. And in fact, from the street, there's a lot of reports of people seeing an apparition of a child in the window. So we were up in the attic conducting an EVP session. It was probably, 11 o'clock or midnight at this point in time. And it's quite warm. This was August, I believe. And there are a large pile of toys that are there for the child to play with, been left there by investigators. And so we're sitting in our circle. There's a gap between me and the investigator to my left. And we ask, is anyone there? And if there's anyone there, can you give us a sign? And from the other side of the room, we hear a noise.
What kind of noise?
Like a bang.
oh,
Yeah.
That's me doing Foley. Thank you.
Thank you, Foley artist. And we look, and it's hard sometimes in the dark because your eyes play tricks on you. You think that, okay, am I seeing something? Does my brain want me to see something? So the other investigator said, if you're there, would you like to join our circle? And about 10 seconds later, my left side got cold. Gasp. And when we are in the midst of an investigation, we do not talk about the things that are happening to us or that we're experiencing. We record them. And that way, because again, the human brain is extremely susceptible. If I say, did you hear that? You can't help it. Oh, yes, I did. I did hear this thing. Do you see that? Yes, I do see that. So we record everything so that we're not influencing each other. At the same time, I recorded that I felt myself get cold on the left side. The investigator to my left wrote that she got cold on her right side.
just for clarification, when you say record, you mean write down.
Write down.
Not like audio record.
No, write down. Yeah,
Okay.
we have journals.
Like a journal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, the way that we record things is we have like a piece of paper that outlines the time. And so you would write down the time that you experienced something, where you were, and what you experienced. And then we compare notes afterwards. That's what Kim's referencing.
Yeah. Later that night, we did an additional EVP session in the attic, and it was quite late at this point. It was 2 or 3 in the morning. It was extraordinarily hot throughout the entire home. And as we all know, heat rises. Earlier when we'd done our EVP session, the temperature in the attic was quite high. We start doing an EVP session, and the temperature dropped by a good, I'd say 20 degrees.
Wow, that's a lot.
And it was really interesting because as soon as we left the attic, temperature went up again. Now, Jake, have you been up into the attic at the Walker Ames house?
Yes, and that is probably one of the most interesting evidence.
Evidence? Is there evidence?
There's evidence. That means you all have to do 6 shots.
Evidence.
That's a lot.
We're trying to get more ghosts. That's the only way we're going to happen.
Yeah, it could be Jello.
Totally.
You know? So with the Walker Ames, we haven't talked about the first floor of the basement yet. But
Right,
when
yes.
it comes to the start, because you started on feelings, and so I am not a heebie-jeebie type. So whenever I get heebie-jeebies, I usually throw it out because I'm thinking it's more psychological than anything.
Right.
However, I had cases on the second floor, and this is where I felt it. And it actually has happened. I've been to Walker Ames 3 times, and it's happened every single time. On the second floor, there's a stairwell that goes into the attic. And when I'm by the hallway, not necessarily on the stairs, but in the hallway, it always feels like I'm going to get a headache or something's pressing on my temples.
Interesting.
And everyone, when I've gone on 2 of the 3 ghost hunts, my ghost hunting partner, I had Bob and I had Aaron. You know Bob,
Bob.
from City of Geek.
Woot woot, City of Geek.
City of Geek? Plug. Great horror movie reviews. You should download City of Geek as often as possible. Subscribe. Okay. And and then with Erin, who isn't really a ghost hunter, and she just came along for fun with me.
That's legit.
She was getting a headache, and Bob had crazy feelings in that hallway.
Bob always has crazy feelings.
Okay, all right.
You
we
meant
agreed on the
creepy
crazy
feelings. I just thought Bob has crazy feelings, but
Okay, yeah. Okay. So we both had creepy feelings. But every time I go there, it feels like I'm gonna get a headache or something's pressing on my temples, right there. And I guess we'll come back to the other evidence because we just talked about heebie-jeebies for the second. So we'll come back to the second floor and other evidence because I've had interesting things happen on the second floor. But in the attic, I got one of the holy dude moments of evidence collection. Evidence. And that was, I put out my ghost engagement stuff. So you guys know I bring a lot of gadgets and a lot of engagement. Not really. I'm just like gadget. Yeah, I should be a Ghostbuster. I want that proton pack.
Nerd alert.
Nerd.
Total. And so I put out my so in the attic at the Walker Ames house, they do have some toys. But I brought like jacks, dominoes, Boo Buddies, and set those up. And
just for those who may not be in the know, can you explain Boo Buddies real quick? Because
it's so great.
It's so cool.
Yeah. So the Boo Buddy, they make two kinds.
What
and
is
I did bring both. They look like teddy bears.
They're awesome.
And if you have the Boo Buddy Interactive, it measures EMF and vibration and temperature, sound to a certain degree. And the paws will light up, or it will say phrases that indicate something is happening. Like if it feels touch or vibration, it goes, that tickles, or I like hugs, something like that to let you know that something's touching it, or it's warmer or cooler in here.
But
yeah.
Clarification for those of you wondering, it is not a ghost speaking those things.
No.
It is not like something channeling this bear saying how it really feels.
It is software that algorithmically spits out 40 phrases, unless you do something like with temperature or touch, vibration.
Play with us.
Yes.
Come play
so my
with
Boo Buddy
me.
was possessed by a demon from hell, and it was running around with a butcher knife like Chucky at one point. I'm kidding.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? And this is why people are confused, Jake. This is why people
Boo Buddy doesn't do any of that. But it rattles off questions, so you can use it for EVP sessions if you want. Normally when I use a Boo Buddy, I set up an experiment, point a camera on it, and put an Eddy Plus next to it, because the Boo Buddy doesn't record anything. So putting it with the Eddy Plus, which measures environmental factors, and a camcorder, you can record everything that happens with it. Also, that's how I use it.
For clarification, can you please explain what an EVP is for those people that don't know what it is?
Ghost voice that gets picked up on a recording device
that you can't hear audibly with your own ears.
Yeah, if you did, that would be a direct voice phenomena, I think is the name they call it.
Got it.
Yeah, if you hear it with your ears, DVP, if it's recorded and you catch on playback. So we're in the attic. I'm with Bob. We're like 15 minutes into it. I've got the gadget set up, and we're just like, hey, do you want to play? And then the gadgets start responding. So
okay, what happened? Tell me everything. I want to hear it all.
So if you want to see the video evidence,
we have video evidence.
Search, yeah, I got video. I've got video of the session because I do video. I bring cameras on my ghost hunts. But if you search for Port Gamble ghost hunts, you should find Ghostly Activities, which is my site, and you can watch the video.
It's a great site too. If you want just a really nice rundown of all kinds of ghostly activities. Yeah.
All things ghostly.
And we can probably link it on our website, so that way you can just access it.
Especially since Jake set up a lot of our website.
I know. Which you all know about if you've been listening to this podcast. He is the website extraordinaire.
It's WordPress, people. There's not much to it. Okay. But thank you for the plug. I do appreciate it. Yeah. Anyway, you could see Bob and I asking questions, and it responds whenever we ask if it wants to play or what its favorite games are, and you'll see the gadgets go off.
It's really cool.
But it only happens when we asked those questions. But pretty much every other time I've been up to the attic, not much has happened. And that is probably the best objective evidence I've collected. But I did have some cool stuff happen on the second floor. I don't know if we want to go back to the second floor and talk about non-EBGB stuff on the second floor.
I do want to bring up the basement real quick because it has both
top to bottom.
Top to bottom. So then we're going to sandwich, and then we're going to do some
Daddy's Ghost Shack.
Daddy's Ghost Shack. You like the sandwich and Daddy's Ghost Shack. I did also find, where I'm going through my far too many pages of notes, that in the main sort of downtown area of Port Gamble, the permanent population is about 80, which is why I had that number in my head. So in the greater Port Gamble area, it's about 1,000. In that main little ghostly town area. It's about 80. Down in the basement, and the basement's really interesting. And another example of where in the research I was doing, I was struggling to find the specifics I wanted to connect to the story. So in the basement, there is said to be the spirit of a boy. And I read variations on this story, but could not find, again, records. But this is the story, or the shell of the story, that gets passed around. And that is that the boy down there was the son of one of the owners at that point, and that he was not quite right. Now, what that means is kind of open to interpretation. And that's where I also come back to trying to get something more specific than not quite right, because that could mean a lot of different things.
Right. And we want to be PC.
Well, exactly. But there was nothing more, like, even when you talk to the locals, that's kind of what they say. Is like, he just wasn't quite right.
He could also just be crazy.
Well, that's what I mean. Like it could have been something developmental. It could have been something, a mental illness.
So the urban legend associated with it, the little boy's name is David. He might be 10 to 12 and has Down syndrome.
Oh, okay. So
it was common to lock up children with.
That's true. I remember hearing about that.
This is where I say, though, I see variations on the story because
this is the variation I hear all the time.
The version that I was first told by, I think it was Pete when I was there for the very first time, was that he had been playing one day with the daughter of one of the servants. And something happened. They had conflict, and he got so angry, he pushed her down the stairs.
Oh, I've heard this one too. Yeah.
And that because of that, he was essentially banished to the basement. And that is why his spirit haunts the basement, but that he also has issues with women who come down there, because it was his mother that did that. And so female investigators often report feeling uneasy or feeling particularly aggressive feelings towards them. And there's also been reports of people being grabbed. When I first went down there, and this was before I knew the story of the basement, and again, I don't do a lot of the, like, I feel these things, because that's not evidence. But I was so uncomfortable from the moment I got down there. I just felt uneasy, and I felt like I needed to not be there anymore. And that was weird for me. There's a chair down there that is or stool. It might be a stool. Kind of like a footstool thing. Right. That is like his, quote unquote, his stool, and you're not supposed to mess it or touch with it.
Yeah, about that.
Oh, please do tell. Jake was like, I see a stool. I want to sit on it. Let's see what happens.
I'm just like, let's see what kind of paranormal activity is associated with this said footstool. I see some coins. I'm just going to take this finger and I'm going to jank them all up. And nothing happened.
Really
so
bad.
I provoked. Yeah, I was that guy. I was that douche. Guy. I was that douche. That douche.
Word for the wise: do not provoke. It is not a smart thing to do.
Don't
do it. But I'm just like,
don't do what Jake does.
Don't poke the ghosts.
I was in a fast food evidence collection kind of mind.
Ghost adventures. Did I say
paranormal up there?
Don't poke
We're
the ghosts.
all really congested, guys. It's just
it's a haunted cold we've been passing.
Yes, it's something viral. It's nasty. It clings to the lungs.
Yeah, it's gonna kill us, and then we're gonna go on the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, so the and one of the variations on the story I'd heard is that the boy was locked in a closet as opposed to being locked in the basement. I read, again, both Pete first told me, I think it was the basement story, but there's also been reports of again, specifically female investigators who've had their hair pulled, and not in the fun way. But when I was down there, and I can't remember who I was with. It was a female investigator, a male investigator, and they were kind of being that guy too. They were like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to move this stool. Let me move this stool."
See?
And actually picked the stool up to move it. And I was like, can we not poke the ghost, please? But I took some pictures, and one of the things we do when we are on investigations is we take a series of photos of one spot. So one after another, click, 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 click. And that way we have things we can compare it to. So I took a series of photos in the one corner, one after another, and all the photos look normal except for, I think it's the third one in. Suddenly in the middle, it's just dark. And it's really weird. And I will see about getting those also posted to our Instagram so you can see exactly what we are talking about. Mm-hmm. Now, we've mentioned the second floor a few times.
So I did have a little more in the basement.
Sorry.
That is just because I'm the camera guy.
I'm rushing you out of the basement very fast.
And so this is the only thing that's really happened down in the basement. But with the camcorders that I have up, it was the first place I put the batteries. As soon as I turned them on, they died down there. But then as soon as I went upstairs, they worked again.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's interesting. I don't know if I'd call it evidence. Evidence. Okay, second floor.
On the second floor, you have. Were you in the yellow room when you?
Okay, so it goes because it's always dark and we're using red light and stuff. So
color becomes.
Color becomes even more subjective, right? If it's the room that's next to the bathroom, it's got a little closet next to it. They say something might be in, like a nurse.
Yes, the nanny.
Yeah, nanny. Okay, yeah. So I've been in there, and actually I did, and Bob backed me up on this one too.
Oh, Bob.
He had personal experiences that through journaling we connected on.
Oh my goodness, look at journaling. It actually works.
It's like we didn't say anything there, and we found out, like I turned in my ghost reports. If you don't know how I do my ghost reports, it's a webpage, and I put all my evidence on it, and I post it for the world to see. So Bob read it, and then he had his notes, and we both saw something manifest in the hallway at the same time. To me,
what did it look like?
To me, it looked like a shimmering cat.
I'm sorry. Wait. Can we back up for a sec? Like a sparkly, like Twilight
shimmery
vampire shimmery cat, or like.
I haven't seen Twilight, so.
And I thought we were friends.
That's okay,
I've
Jake.
seen
I'm right
50
there
Shades
with
of Grey.
Oh God, stop with these like Pacific Northwest movies.
You can
Stop
see the
it.
sock puppet theater version at Daddy's Ghost Shack.
Oh God.
Okay, that I would watch.
Oh God. Oh no.
So shimmering like fading in and out, shimmering like.
Yeah, that kind of thing, but rapidly stuff.
I was thinking of like sparkly, so like a diamond.
Oh yeah, not sparkly, no, shimmering,
awesome.
like wavy waves of appearing and disappearing, like silhouette outline kind of thing. And he saw something small like that too in the hallway at the same time we were in that bedroom.
So really that bedroom is haunted by a cat.
Well, I had heard that. I looked it up after the fact, and I had read about a ghost cat in a couple of the forums and stuff, but never know if it's BS or people are just throwing some stuff out there. But I thought there was some mention of a ghost pet at the Walker Ames house.
That's one we'll have to look back into. I don't remember that, but that doesn't mean there's so many spirits there that it's very possible.
Hey, quick question.
Right.
Why do you think there's so many spirits there?
Well, there's theories.
There's theories.
There's
Can we talk about
hypotheses.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was going to say because of the water, the links to the land from Native Americans, there could possibly, if you believe in ley lines.
I was going to say the ley lines is what I hear most frequently thrown around there.
Yeah.
What is a ley line for those who don't know?
So ley lines, and it was a theory that first came about in like the early 1920s, I want to say, by an amateur archaeologist named Alfred Watkins. And he noticed, or at least was the first one to kind of put this down, that at ancient sites and different kind of points around the world, be it like a man-made site or a natural site, like Mount Rainier or Mount St. Helens or the pyramids, that they kind of fell into a pattern, usually a line, and he called them lays, and then later called them ley lines, and thought that they were points that could kind of be openings or
Not really portals. I wouldn't call them ish.
to supernatural or other spiritual things. It's like latitude and longitude kind of crisscrossing lines.
Mhm.
And they're if you believe in such things, there are a lot of them that line up by Port Gamble.
Puget Sound in general.
Puget Sound in general, yes, but you have specifically in the kind of Port Townsend, Port Gamble area, there's also a lot right in there.
Yeah. So in my research, and this will be just a quick side note on it, is I do a lot of mapping of hauntings to see if there's geographic patterns.
Love.
And I find it's more the case of soil types and water.
Really?
Interesting.
Versus like bands of mystical energy crisscrossing the earth. So I did a analysis here in Seattle. And if you do like Seattle ley lines, if you search for, you do Chicago ley lines, you'll see the maps and they tend to follow. So Seattle's not the best because we're completely surrounded by water and blah, 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 blah. But Chicago, in the case of Chicago, and I also did one in England, Chicago follows, you'll find the clustering around the lake shore, Lake Michigan shore, and the two branches of the Chicago River and Des Plaines rivers. And then when you go to England and you study that one, it follows the Thames and curves into a lot of inland water sources like lakes and stuff like that.
So why are lakes and soil? How is that tied to?
Well, they talk about how like there's a certain kind of magnetic energy. Mind you, if you go to a flowing river and try to measure the EMF on it, you're going to get next to nothing, but maybe at the scale of it. But it could just also be, whenever there's water, there's usually human civilization. And so the haunts are better mapped.
That makes sense. I feel like, that feels like that's something that someone who is more skeptic might be able to connect with, because it, like, looking up ley lines, like everything that Kim was saying is completely accurate. And it's something that it seems like it's hard to prove.
It's extremely hard to prove. Yeah.
So if you're looking at like ways to prove it, that would make sense looking at like who inhabited those areas. However, it's a theory,
right?
It's not like a for sure fact, but that's why I think that could connect Port Gamble, Port Townsend, all that business.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back to the Walker Ames, how many like spirits do you think are actually there?
At the bare minimum, you have your boy in the basement, you have your child in the attic, there's been reports of another spirit in the attic that is probably not a child.
Yep, I heard that.
Yeah, because we had that second time around too. We had some. It was weird when the temperature dropped like it did. It did not feel the same as it had earlier in the evening. On that second floor, I suppose technically, if you've got basement, the first floor, the second floor, and then.
Well, we haven't even talked about the first.
I know.
floor.
Well, and there's still stuff for that. There's just so many. Because I had some weird things happen in that same room that you were talking about.
Okay.
And Pete, he'd actually messaged me something that I could share about something he had that happened there that was really interesting.
Ooh, let's hear it.
So this is the quote from him. I was investigating with Olympic Peninsula Paranormal Society at the time.
OPP.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know me.
OPP.
On this investigation, one of the team members thought she heard a voice, one that we've heard several times. The team went up to the second floor and started to ask about the voice. We asked, "Can you tell who you are?" The voice of a young girl answered, "A lady." It sounded like it was less than 10 feet from me. We then asked, "Can you tell us your name?" She answered, "Annabelle."
This is Mary's DVP, or it came through a spirit box.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, Mary played it. If you do the Port Gamble Ghost Conference, and she gives these using spirit box or EVP class, she'll play that for you.
Oh, interesting. I've never taken it. This is just when I emailed him, this is what he sent me. Her second response came from just a couple feet away from us, and we all just about fell over. It was such a loud and clear voice. I've never experienced a disembodied voice that clear and so close in proximity. It was truly one of my favorite experiences in Port Gamble.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
the first
wild.
floor is known for its EVPs and DVPs versus the other parts of the house, which I never get anything. But the first floor, yeah, and then June saw that apparition through was it the infrared cameras on the main floor?
Yes, which was bonkers. Well, and when I was on that second floor, we were doing an EVP session up there, and we were and people were starting to feel kind of uneasy. And one of the investigators asked, "Would you like us to leave?" And we all heard something say yes.
Ooh.
And we were like, "Okay, cool. We're done. We're good. We're going back downstairs. Peace out. Have a good evening. Bye."
Bye.
But that was one of the first times I'd ever heard a voice during an EVP.
Huh. Wow. That's very rare.
I would say when it comes to DVPs, I would say Spooked in Seattle. That's where I've experienced them. Weird thing is, usually when you hear it with your ear, it doesn't make it onto tape.
Right. No, and that was what was really weird. When we checked our recordings after the fact, no one had anything there. You hear us reacting to it. I have on mine the person being like, "Oh, would you like us to leave?" And then there's this pause and everybody like, "All right, cool. We're going back downstairs. Have a good evening."
Yeah. And so so that's the great thing about OPP getting that record is because they had it recorded. They've got the voice. Right. They can play it for you.
Oh, that's wonderful.
As it came through a spirit box and they had their recorders out. So
do we need to I feel like we should do an episode at some point that just goes through some of the terminology that we end up using? Do we need to talk at all about ghost boxes or spirit?
I feel like we can honestly do it as we need to, but I think this would be a great time to talk about a ghost box because I know Jake mentioned it, and certain investigators like using them, certain ones don't.
Yeah, I think what probably would be work instead of, because it's going to be like a glossary,
right?
Well, we could also
put it up on the website.
Yeah, I was going to say we could put it up on the website. So we've kind of dropped a few different little mini explanations of certain things. But if you want to check out our website, we'll put it up there. We'll have different words and phrases and equipment that we like to use during investigations, that we don't like to use during investigations, why we do and don't like using them during investigations. And it just helps us understand things a little bit better. And it also allows us to get evidence that we can use as evidence versus things that people use as evidence when it may not actually be evidence.
Evidence.
You should have taken like 7 shots.
All
Just then.
about the evidence.
We're really trying to get our new ghosts happening by just making everyone drink themselves to death.
You're going to see some spirits after this episode.
Yes, yes, you are.
Spirits aplenty.
Yes. I can't. Okay, what else do we have?
When I was there, that very first floor, I didn't catch anything myself. But I know, as you were mentioning, Jake, that you can catch a lot of EVPs down there and apparitions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's known for that. And then also that little closet
Oh,
thing
right.
is right there.
There's a closet thing.
Yeah, where they would put the little boy.
If if depending on which version of the story you go with, in some versions of the story, the little boy gets shoved in the closet.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not in anyway. Yeah.
I don't like
but that's one of the places that Pete won't let you go. Is that closet? It's you got the stairwell up
Right.
to the second floor. It's right
Right.
there.
But he does keep recorders in there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
he does have recorders in there and everything. But you don't ever hear about the grounds outside the house.
No, I mean, there's a lot of stuff about people being on the grounds and looking up and seeing spirits in the window. That's a real common thing to happen.
Yeah.
But I don't hear much about spirits seen outside the house.
Yeah. Just walking around, you would think, but
No. Well, but I'd say in general, like I didn't see any reports of anyone seeing spirits.
Unless it's the cemetery.
The cemetery is the only one where I saw distinct outside spirits.
I will say, but going to Buena
Vista.
Buena Vista Cemetery, I have not picked up anything in that place at all.
No, although I know
Supercharged. It's supercharged because it has the power line that runs under it.
that's what I was going to say. Is that I have had some weird readings, but no, I've never had an EVP there. I've never caught a weird picture there, but I've gotten some weird spikes around there. And it is one of the nice things about the cemetery specifically is that you can go there whenever. You don't need to, I mean, with the Walker Ames house, you can't just go in. You have to either go through Pete and do one of their official ones, or you have to schedule to go into it. And most of the other buildings, it's the same thing. The cemetery is a place you can go whenever you visit.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about the cops throwing you out.
I was wondering, and the reason why I was asking you to talk more about the cemeteries, I thought you meant that you had seen like full-bodied apparitions there.
I have not. There's been reports of full-bodied apparitions there, of the little boy that is seen running around, or I shouldn't say little boy, the small child that's seen running around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so so the cemetery is by a cliff that goes into the bay. And then if you're on, I think it's the west side of it, that's where the children were buried, and that's where you'll see the little
Kids.
shadow figures.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was either because there is that one Gustav Engelbrecht.
Yeah.
Who
That's history.
Yeah, that is history. He was killed in a battle with Northern Indians at Port Gamble, Washington, in the line of duty on the 22nd of November, 1856. And his grave is there.
Was he English or was he an American in the naval battle? Because like Washington wasn't a state.
Washington
at the time.
was not a state at the time. You are correct. I know he was a crewman on the USS Massachusetts, which was the single American warship stationed in the water. It was still a territory at this point, only been a territory for about 10 years.
Okay, so Oregon was a state at the time, and then we were what was left of Oregon territory became Washington.
Right,
territory.
and this was they responded to a battle at Port Gamble where a local tribe, and I'm going to apologize if I mispronounce this because it's not one of the tribes I'm more familiar with. Haida.
Okay, yeah. That tribe is across the bay from Port Gamble,
and they often, because they were sometimes called the Vikings of the Pacific.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and so they would travel, I guess, apparently quite large lengths using these canoes that could hold dozens of people, and they would often attack once or twice a year in these big raids, just bringing, hundreds and hundreds of people to attack. So when they arrived in Port Gamble, the town was being attacked, and in the Battle of Port Gamble is what they call it. They were able to drive off the forces, but the one person who was killed was our friend Gustav.
Oh, poor Gustav.
Poor Gustav. And he is buried there. He was the U.S. Navy's first man to die in combat in the Pacific.
Oh, fun fact.
And that's one of the reasons why it's a notable grave, as it were. So you've got that kind of fun little weird piece of history there, and a lot of other old cool gravestones.
Yeah, I mean the cemetery is not big, but it's really cool, very well maintained. The one bit of evidence we should probably talk about is evidence. And I think June got it.
Oh yeah, I think you're correct.
This was, they were playing tribal music and stopped, and they recorded it. It continued on the recorder.
Oh, that's so cool.
Evidence. Listen to this dope shit.
Geyser.
I want to eat your soul.
That's just Jake. For those of you wondering, that is not the EVP. That is Jake just being creepy.
Dude,
can that be the beginning of our episode now? I want to eat your soul.
I'm gonna gut you like a fish.
That's great. Wonderful. Perfect. Nailed
cheery,
it.
happy, joy. Happy, joy.
All right. Anyway, so are there any? Those are my big. That's all of my big stories and experiences from the
golf clap. That's a golf clap.
Golf clap.
That's a golf clap.
Jake, is there anything that you want to add from when you were there?
That is mainly it. I mean, even if let's just plug Port Gamble. It's a gorgeous town,
really
especially
is.
if you go in the fall. They've got 2 great restaurants if you want to check out. I forgot some things like the Butcher and the
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's so on brand.
Butcher and something.
Well, and the tea shop too, which is quite nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, they do have wonderful clotted cream and biscuits there and tea. Yeah. And then they've got the little restaurant next to it's above the museum, I think.
Yeah, in the little general store there, they've got just a cute little kind of.
Oh, this isn't a building next door to it. It's like red right now, but they paint it from time to time. But yeah, they've got good breakfast there. I've been there for brunch.
I really wish we could just go on a brunch date right now and just go there, because that sounds
field trip. We should totally do a little field trip at some point.
We should. I would be super down.
That'd be super cool.
And I'll bring the mics and everything. It'll be great.
Oh, that sounds like such a good time. I wish we could do it today. Cool. So lots of fun information. I feel like this will be a really good example of an episode that we incorporate our evidence on our website. So this would be a really great time to go to the website and check it out, see what we can find that we have visual, any kind of video evidence we can link to. So that way you guys can check it out. Because I know this is a auditory experience being on a podcast.
But we can do visual podcasts.
I know we can, but right now, if someone's listening on, Apple Podcasts, since we're on Apple now.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
On Spotify. I mean, it's definitely one of those experiences that we might want people to check out visually too. So if you want to check it out, go to our website. We'll have some information on there. We have our Instagram that you can check out as well. And thank you guys for listening. We're so excited to share this information with you. I wanted to also just let you know, if you want to check out more information on our group, AGHOST, visit aghost.org. And for more information on AGHOST Stories, you can also check out our Facebook page, which is all one word, AGHOST Stories Podcast. If you have any paranormal stories of your own that you would like us to share on a future episode, we would love to hear from you. Send it to us at our email at aghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. I know we mentioned before that we are actually on Apple Podcasts. Hallelujah. Very excited. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on there, and follow us on Spotify. But you can listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. We're easily accessible. And we also have our Transistor website, which is aghostsstoriespodcast.transistor.fm.
Thank you for listening, and stay spooky, Seattle.